Life Outdoors radio show with Nate Bailey. Everything you need to know about hunting Southern Oregon. Wake the wild within.
Welcome to the Life Outdoors radio show. We are fueled by Spica gear. So go over to spica.usa.com and you will see some of the best gear for the best value to get you outside. Spica gear, it gets you outside. Also, look at the lifeoutdoors.org and find the Life Outdoors Guild. You'll find it under What We Do tab, and then go down to Guild. Click on the link, and you'll go into the Guild, and you'll see that we are trying to get people outside, get them in the outdoors, so they'll know something of themselves and something of God. With that said, please check out everything that we have over at the Life Outdoors. And if you like this radio show or you like any of the content that we're putting out, please like and subscribe to everything that we do on our social media outlets, on the Dove TV, on our YouTube channel, and at the lifeoutdoors.org. We're here to get you guys outside so you know a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about God. All right, welcome to the show, you guys. This is the Life Outdoors Spring Edition, and we have been out hunting spring bears, and we do it a little bit different than most of the people here in Oregon. A lot of people here in Oregon have been telling me that, you could see more bears if you'll go out and you'll hunt the clear cuts. And I get that, but there's something special about the high country in spring. It's spring bear season starts in April 1st. And then it just ended yesterday. And so it's quite an extensive season. There's a lot of, different nuances to the season. You could start low at the coast and work your way up the hill or work your way towards the Cascades during the season. And what happens during spring bears are really cool because they're just getting out of, not all of them den up, but where we hunt them, they like to den up. But they're getting out of their dens, or they're getting more active, and they're trying to get their digestive systems going, and they hit that high spring grass, and they just pretty much follow it up the slope. So, starting at the coast, they take right off over there in April and start getting bears that come out into the clear cuts and start eating the grass, and then clear into May 31st, you just follow it up the hill, and in the Cascades, the spring bears are still hitting grass, and some of the grass hasn't even came out yet. We went to a place where there was not hardly any grass. We got up above the bears is what we call it, and we're up about 7,000 feet, and the snow banks were just starting to melt, and there was just a lack of food up there, so we came back down. But the reason that we hunt them the way we do is because we're always looking for adventure, and we're always looking for getting out and trying to push into the backcountry as far as we can. Now, why should we hunt spray bears? Well, spring is a great time to get rid of some of those boars or some of the bears that are getting our ungulates. I think it was like 90% of all the calf fatalities for elk, and that's, the new calves born come from big boars that have figured out that elk like to calve around prairies, or around those high mountain prairies. And they like to drop their calves around those prairies. And then that way they have, a feed source. When they first calve out, then they put them around the prairies, and the bears walk the perimeters. Now bears have way better, their smell is way better than other types of ungulates. And so that's kind of why they are able to, get around the edges of the prairies and find those little calves. And that's one of the biggest predators to the calf. So if we're up there disrupting this, if the way that we are hunting is making the spring bears not able to do that, then we have actually helped out our calf population. And normally in the natural order of things, it's not as big of a deal, but there's nothing natural about the way that this is working right now. We have so many spring bears in Oregon nowadays that, um, man, it's really getting hard, for some of these cascades, especially high cascade elk, to succeed. There's just so many bears out there. Just in one area this year, we saw, just with our group, we saw, I don't know, we pulled over 8 bears, and just the group itself, the people that I know, have seen way over that. So there are so many bears up in the woods that spring bear season is a time to get out and hunt them. Now, how do you start spring bear hunting? Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to figure out how you get, the tag. And we always are hunting different tags along spring bear season. But you go to the ODFW, if you go to their regulations, there is a spring bear section in there, and it's all a draw tag. Now, I think it would be great if, say, the Southwest Oregon tag was not a draw tag. If it was a like a quota tag, where once we shot a certain amount, then they shut down the season, rather than being a draw tag. Because we never, for one, we never shoot the management objective. They give out 4,000 tags. We usually kill about 300 bears. And then two, a lot of people draw that tag, they get their sports pack or whatever, and they just draw that tag, and then they don't go out. So you get the people that don't go out, soaking up the tags of the people who would go out. And if we had a quota, and we allowed people to shoot more than one bear, we just try to meet that management objective, it would be really smart, because then the tool that the biologists are trying to use to manage the bear populations would actually then manage the bear population. Right now, it's a crapshoot. Nobody knows exactly how many bears they're going to be able to manage. But if you had somebody who knows how to get rid of the bears, who knows how to get the bears, then they could use that management tool. They could use the quota. And if we met that quota every year, then our game managers would be able to manage a lot better. Currently, we're able to shoot, if you get your spring bear tag, we're currently able to shoot 3 bears in Oregon a year. That's per person. And the reason that they've done that is because they know the problem. So everybody talks about ODFW not giving it, not taking care of the predator problem, but they don't realize that ODFW's got their hands tied, and they are giving us every tool in the book that we can have to manage the bear problem. They also have told us that we could shoot 2 cougars a year. And because they know the predator problem, they know the problems that are going on within predator management, and yet we're not living up to our side of it as hunters. So with that said, I guess if you're not going to ever spring bear hunt, don't put in for the tag, because there's people that are putting in for the tag that will actually kill a spring bear or hunt them. Even just hunting them helps the ungulates, because if you keep that predator afraid of being out and getting after the animals, then you'll give that ungulate, or elk and deer, a chance to move on. So that's one of the big reasons and that's how you start, is you get out and go to the spring regs. The next thing is, if you're looking to get into spring bear hunting, you have to key yourself around food. And the first thing that bears do when they come out of den, or when they're just kind of getting more active, is they try to get their digestive system going by a lot of grass. And if you go up high, you'll see where they've plugged up, and they'll pass a plug from hibernating. If you're down low, they don't really hibernate down low. They just kind of slow down during the winter. But you just look for those areas. What I like to do is I like to find the best grass that I can find, and then walk the edges of that grass and see where the bears have been, pooping. And if you find that, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to find a bear in that area. So when you find a bear in that area, you just kind of wait on him and understand where he's going to be, because they typically will come out and eat the same grass every time. So do that. Go out there, grab some grass, get around the grass, and you'll get around bears. Now, once you've got around them and you're starting to see them, what kind of rifle should you use? Well, most of your shots, depending on how you're going to hunt, a lot of people hunt clear cuts. Bears love them. There's a lot of food in clear cuts. I typically try not to hunt clear cuts just because I'd rather hunt them up high, where there's a lot of elk that you're protecting. And not that you're not protecting elk in clear cuts as well, but so if you're hunting a clear cut, some of your shots can be rather long, and bears are easy to lose. They soak up a bullet pretty easy, and so you want to make a big wound channel. Now this is controversial, but I personally have seen more bears able to find when you have that big wound channel and high energy. So that's what you want to do, is you want to create as much energy and a biggest wound channel you can create. And one way to do that is to use a different type of bullet than what, a lot of the big game companies have told us that we need these bullets that retain all of their weight, and that's what will create, good penetration. Well, even the deepest black bear, you're only going to have to penetrate 6-7 inches. So if you have a bullet that explodes or even fragments upon entry, you're going to take out more of that soft tissue and open up a bigger hole. Bears typically, if you have a small hole, same with like bows, they have a lot of fat and a lot of things that could go around and stop that up. So your blood trail, if the energy doesn't kill them right there, the blood trail itself is really hard to follow. So you want to make it, and it'll close up the hole, and they have a lot of hair that soaks up blood. So you won't be able to see it. And that's a big deal when it comes to bears, because they typically live, they come out to feed in the prairies or in the clear cuts, but they live in some deep, dark stuff. So if they retreat back into the deep, dark stuff after they've been hit, trying to find them is just absolutely unreal. It's really hard to find them. So you want to give yourself all the best opportunity you can, with the biggest hole that you could provide in a bear. So that's the best advice I can give you, is just shoot a bullet that is going to create a lot of tissue damage and get the most penetration at the time. As far as calibers, bears are typically pretty easy to get through. You don't need a huge caliber. I think wound channel is more important. If you want to put a bunch of energy into something, use your heavier calibers, your 30s, or use a big bullet, but bears themselves are fairly easy to kill. The hard part is to find them once you have them killed. So that's probably one of the biggest tips I could give you, is to create a huge wound channel, create something that leaves a lot of sign on the ground when you're going to find them after you shoot. Now, when we get back from the break, I'm going to tell you a story about some of the bear hunting that we had going on this year, and give you a couple tips about what I think will make you more successful in the woods. But before we do that, you guys head over to thelifeoutdoors.org and leave us some comments about this radio show. We want to hear what you guys want to know, and what you want to hear through the radio show. Please leave us some comments. Let us know what you're listening to and what you'd like to hear, and we will bring it to you. We're also looking for people to go over to thelifeoutdoors.org and take a look at the Guild. You can find that over there, and if you start looking at the Guild and see what we're doing there, and if you would like to create a guild, your own a local guild, something around what you guys are doing, you could sign up at the Life Outdoors, and we're going to start creating the inner circle, to where we will teach you how to run the guild, and then you could take that to your local church or to your local hunting store or anything like that. And that's over at the lifeoutdoors.org. You go under what we do, and then there will be a tab for the guild. There will be a link there for the guild, and you click on that link and it'll take you right in. It'll show you the first lesson, and we have 12 more lessons coming for that module, or 12 more modules for that lesson. So go check it out. Let us know what you think, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Hunting Southern Oregon. The Life Outdoors radio show on Gold Country Radio with Nate Bailey. Keep it tuned right here for more ways to perfect your craft. Coming up next, Wake the Wild Within.
This is Dave. Dave makes the tastiest burritos in town. But
nobody knows I exist. I'm serving culinary masterpieces to my mom and a raccoon named Dennis.
Then came Jenny.
Dave, have you tried radio?
Radio, isn't that for traffic reports and late-night alien talk?
It's also for thousands of people who don't know you exist.
Huh?
Yet, radio is affordable, reliable, and it works. Not instant burrito fame, but people start showing up kind of results.
So I partnered with Gold Country Radio, and now people know I exist. I've got new customers, catering calls, and Dennis brought a possum. I think they're dating.
I told you. Radio gets your business heard.
Next up, we a second table, maybe indoor seating.
Want to get your business heard? Visit goldcountryradio.org and click Contact to get started. Radio, small budget, big reach, real results.
The Life Outdoors radio show with Nate Bailey. Everything you need to know about hunting Southern Oregon. Wake the Wild Within.
We had just got back from hiking into the backcountry for about 4 miles. We had the goats with us. We searched over and over several different high mountain vistas, looking for bears as we went. Bears are a kind of a crazy creature when you look at them in the outdoors. People call them timber ghosts, and there's a reason for that, because they just kind of show up. And if you've ever watched any bears in the woods, they are entertaining as all get out. But Oregon has way too many bears. And so that's the reason that we were up there. We were overlooking acres and acres and acres and looking across vistas and just trying to mull over where a bear might show up. All the little drainages were green with new grass shoots, and we knew that that would draw the bears in, but we couldn't see every little nook and cranny. So we kept moving and kept going across the top of the ridge. And these ridges were thousands of feet deep. Some of them were a couple thousand feet deep, and you'd look down inside and you could see how green and lush it was down in the bottoms. And as we moved across the ridge, we would stop for a half an hour, lay back on our packs, and just kind of glass the whole area. It's kind of the kind of hunting that, you know, you really would like to do more of, but at the same time, you know what it brings from you. The minute that you see a bear down in the depths, you know that it's going to, even if you get a shot at it, which is, you know, probably a 85% chance that you're not, because you got to cover a lot of ground, and then you got to get within position before that bear moves out of there. So it's a super hard challenge. You may see a lot of bears, but trying to get a shot on one is really hard. And this is what we were doing for the whole week. And we'd look down in there for the whole weekend, I should say. We'd been looking down in those areas. We spotted a couple bears, but as we go across, we decided that, man, we're just going to have to start going up in the higher Cascades where there's more trees, and where we, you know, when we do see a bear, more than likely it's going to be in range. So we loaded everything up, headed north, kind of stayed the same elevation. We were right around 5,500 feet. And then we decided that, you know, we looked at a couple of high mountain prairies that are around 6,000 feet, but it took a little ways to get into them. We dropped the goats off. We didn't need the goats there, dropped them off, and started heading up. The morning was crisp and cold, and up high, we had a real high pressure system over the top of us, which creates this weird system up in the woods because you have so much snow up there that he starts evaporating, but the high pressure system keeps the moisture down low, and it pushes it in these high prairies. They're, in the Cascades, every little creek drainage up there has like a alder thick prairie kind of bowls. There, if you look on the west side of the Cascades and you look at these west side slopes where the creeks come out, they almost all come out of like these wallows and these great big fields full of alders with real lush green grass, and the whole area, it just spells bears. But you get out and you look up there, and there is this almost it's just like a fog that gets pushed down, and it's a mist that stays down until the sun breaks through and warms up the ground, and then of course the thermals heat that fog and push it up and kind of push it out of the atmosphere. But early in the mornings, it just kind of lays in there, and that's why I think that high country black bears are kind of called mystical to a point, because when you see them, they're kind of in this, they're picking their way through the mist, and they don't move fast. When a bear, they're always moving, but not moving fast, I should say. Sometimes they're moving too fast to where you can't get a shot on them. They move in and out of the brush so fast as they're feeding, but they're always moving. And that's what this morning kind of felt to us. Now, we couldn't get all the way to the trailhead. We were trying to get down to the bowl to where the trailhead was, but as we came around the north slope, there were snow drifts that were still 3-4 foot deep, trickling water out from underneath them, and then you could see the mosquitoes just pouring out from the bottom where the water was coming out. And of course, they weren't hatching yet, but the minute that sun touched them, they would hatch out of those larvae, and they'd become part of the mysticism, or the grandeur of the high Cascades, if you could call it that, because it is something to see, but at the same time, it really is not that much fun. So we take off, we park up on the last south facing slope, because that's all the snow drifts were passable coming up that with a 4-wheel drive pickup. And we start making our way to the trailhead. We were only able to get within about a half a mile, and each snow drift, as you're going down the north slope, were 5-6 feet deep. Some of the stuff down in the bottom, some of the timber wells were like 8 foot deep, and you wouldn't want to go through and do a lot of this stuff by yourself, because once you get down in there and the sun's starting to heat up to 80 degrees in some places, some of that snow starts melting, and if you start breaking through, trying to get back out, it's just so super deep. It's just nice to have somebody around you, so so they could pull you out of a tree well, or so if you get stuck in waist deep, crusty snow that's been up there for months, you could still get out. This is part of the reason I like to hunt these high country bears, because it's an adventure. There's a lot going into it. It's not just sitting and waiting for a bear to pop out. It's getting there, seeing the high country, probably the first human to be seeing that as the snow melt comes off, looking at all the animals that are going up. It's amazing to see how many deer are already up in the high country during this time. And the birds are just going nuts. And they love the fact that all these bugs are starting to hatch. And there's if you go into the fields right on the edge of all the runoff, there's worms coming out of the ground, and the birds are just crazy up there. And then the wildflowers, each day, everything changes and the wildflowers are blooming, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's springtime in the woods is becoming one of my favorite times of the year. And as we go through there, we're picking up the trail. We make it down. We cross over the road, hoping that, there wasn't so much runoff that it would blow out the culverts, which happens every year in the woods. There's always some culvert that gets plugged up and they blow out. But you're hoping that didn't happen, so you could get across the creek, because the creeks are swollen to where they're definitely even over gators sometimes. So you're pushing through this stuff and you're trying to find those bears that are just coming out of the den. And what you're looking for is that high mountain grass, and you're looking for it growing into something that is something that can sustain a bear for a couple weeks as they're getting out of the dens and they're trying to get their digestive system going, and before they really get on thinking about even eating some elk calves, they'll hit that grass. And the way that you know that they're on it is you'll see their plugs. When they hibernate, these bears kind of plug up, and then they go out, eat grass, and they'll get really bloated until they lose that plug that they've had in for the last month or month and a half. And so you can look at these edges of these grass fields and you can find these meniscus or mucus kind of plugs. And when you find those, you know that they're going to be back at that grass, because they'll sit there and eat on that for a couple of weeks before they really get their digestive system working again. And you can see when a bear first comes out, you can see them up in the high country. They get almost bloated, like a bloated cow or a bloated goat or something like that. They get to where they get bloated up, and that's what they're eating that grass for, is to get that high nutrition real quick. So that's what you're looking for. And that's how it was this day. We start taking up the trail. We're stopping in every little spot where we could see into, where the skunk cabbage is starting to come up, where it's wetter. And then on the edges of that wetness is where the grass grows. And that's what you're really looking for, is you're looking for it. And it's almost chartreuse. And if it has those little yellow flowers in it, those high country flowers in that grass, you know that that's what they're going to hit. For some reason, the grass that has the little yellow flowers in it is some of the best grass to be able to find bears in. And we're making our way up through there, and we're looking, and we see all this stuff. And it's a great time to be in the spring, because all the little rodents, they're coming out of the dens too. And with that, there's so many different types of predator birds up there. And I don't know if you're like me, predator birds are an amazing animal, and you're starting to look at those birds, and even the owls stay out a little bit longer because everything is waking up, and it feels like a renewal after a long winter, and we make our way up through there, and we make our way to a camera that I had, which is really cool, that a camera existed and stayed in there over the season. And so I pull open the camera and I start looking at pictures, and it's amazing. I put the camera in there for elk season, not for bear season, but it's amazing that there were elk in there during the season. And we went in there opening week last year, and we put that camera in at that time, and there were no elk using it. So we didn't go back in there, but like middle of the elk season, there was a herd in there for about a week. And so it's cool to see that we actually picked a spot where we thought there would be elk, and there were actually elk there during the season. Kind of frustrating, though, that we didn't go back in there and try to hunt those elk, because we didn't know that there were elk in there. So anyhow, we pick up the camera. There's so many rodents. The elk had moved the camera, so it wasn't really on the trail and showing too much. But we had like birds and rodents in front of it, and it was pushed down, but we would see bear prints. And one of the things is the bear didn't eat the camera, which was really nice. And so as we're going through, we know that there's been a bear in there. We've seen the snow melt with the birds. And then we do see a foot that was in there 1st of May, just as the snow started melting, and just as the snow was low enough that the camera actually could take pictures again. And so we know that there's bears around. So we decide, well, we're going to make our way up the trail. We're going to go into a spot where we know that the green grass is, or it typically is during the fall. So I know that's where it's going to start sprouting out. And those sprouts are what we're looking for. So we're making our way up through the trail, and we get almost to the top, and this black ghost isn't running, but is moving, going into the green section. And it's like a ghost that just is moving through the timber, and both of us just die and think, we couldn't do anything. We had our rifles on our back and we're sitting there waiting and watching this thing cross in front of us without being able to do anything. And if one of us had a rifle out and had it, loaded, we would have probably been able to get a shot off at it. But as it was, it didn't know we were there. We checked the wind. The wind was blowing in our face, and he walks across and he goes into the alders, into the prairie. And we know he's going to go down through there and feed. And we could hear him and we could see alders moving, but bears feed so fast, and they're not running or anything like that, but trying to keep up with him is really hard. So we decide we're going to go down the trail and come back in. And we did, and we never did catch up to him. And it's a bummer, but at the same time, that's why we hunt the high prairie mountains. And so we spend the rest of the day in there trying to find him, trying to find tracks, and we could see where he's been eating. And we probably could hear him a couple times, but we just could not catch up. That's the allure of this high country bear hunting. High country Cascade bear hunting. If you guys haven't done it, you need to get out and experience it, because it's the adventure about it. It's not really the kill. We're out there to learn something about ourselves and learn something about God. And the best way that we could do that is through this adventure. And both of us left that day happy that we were out and learning a little bit more about ourselves. One, we need to be more prepared. Two, the Lord has animals. Wherever the Lord has animals, we got to go, we got to submit to him, because he made the earth the way it is, and bears live in a certain place. So we have to submit to where the bears are going to be. And then also to take in everything that was out there. The renewal of spring speaks to our hearts, because that's something that we all need. So you guys get out, get after the spring bears, get after the spring fishing, get after all the spring stuff, and then understand what the Lord is doing in the renewal of the nature, because that speaks straight to our souls. Maybe there's something inside of you that needs to be renewed. If that's the case and you want to talk about it, go over to lifeoutdoors.org, leave us a comment, leave us a prayer request, and we'll get back to you. Hopefully you guys are really enjoying the radio show. We're going to try to bring more and more to you. And as we go throughout the rest of the season, we're going to put more of this out. So go over there, leave us some questions about stuff that you would like to see. We'd love to hear from you. That's at thelifeoutdoors.org. Until then, until next week, get out there and keep living.
Thanks for listening to the Life Outdoors radio show. Tune in next Sunday evening at 7 p.m. to continue to hone the primitive skills that man has always been meant to master. Hunting Southern Oregon. The Life Outdoors radio show with Nate Bailey. Wake the wild within.